Hey, my name is Nick, and this is Trans Guy Reacts, and I'm breaking down round two of the NCAA tournament. Let's get into it. Let's waste no time. First up is the North Carolina versus South Carolina game that happened on Sunday. It was very interesting because the last time that they played, it was a much shorter or smaller gap in the points. It was like a 7 or 8 point gap, and this was 47 point gap. They blew them out. It was pretty shocking. I didn't see that coming. In the first quarter, they had a 20 point lead, which was freaking wild. I can't believe that happened. And then at the half, it was 19-56. And then after a while, it was like getting. It was that was pretty awful. 19-56 at the half, and then in the third, they started coming back, and it was like 30 point lead, and I was like, oh, maybe they're gonna make a run. No, no, they didn't. They didn't make a run at all. The bench for South Carolina scored 51 points, and that was more than the total score for North Carolina completely. Like, they really shut down Deja Kelly. Like, what's this? Who was it? Malaysia was on Deja, and she was stealing her ball, denying her so many times. Deja Kelly was on the floor so much. It was honestly embarrassing, very embarrassing for North Carolina. But great win for South Carolina, still undefeated, and hopefully shut up some naysayers because people thought that they were gonna like North Carolina was gonna give it to them. Clearly not. And then the next game was Alabama versus Texas. Alabama, they fought as much as they could, but Texas is just a stronger team, to be honest. It was tight in the beginning, I would say, in the first half, but then after that last, yeah, like Alabama burned their last timeout in at like 2 minutes and 36 seconds left in the fourth quarter, which I thought was weird. But so, whatever. Texas pulled it out. Vic Schaefer's the truth. He even has I always forget his daughter's on the team on his coaching staff, and she was on his team, obviously in Mississippi State. But yeah, he's the truth, and I think they're gonna do really well, and I can't wait to see them match up with whoever they're gonna match up with. Then you had Duke in Ohio State, which was very riveting. It was a very tight game the entire time. Duke got the lead in the third quarter, and then it was kind of close with 1 minute left. It was like 66-59, and then but Duke pulled it away with a very young team. I think most of the team is like freshmen and sophomores, but Kara Lawson is the truth. She's a great coach. She used to be a great basketball player. I'm not surprised that she pulled this out as a coach. And it's pretty cool because it's the first win for them since 2008 in a tournament. Or 2018? 2000, I can't remember if someone said 2008 or 2018. I don't know. Either way, it's been a while. It's been a really long time. And then Reagan Richardson had 28 points. Crazy. It was a fabulous game. Really enjoyed that one. And then we had they're in the Portland regional. So cool. So I'm going to see Texas. I'm going to the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 in Portland. So I will be seeing Texas and I will be seeing Duke. Move on. This game, Iowa State versus Stanford. What a wow! This was intense. Okay, it was tight and close at the half, which is I expected this because the game before that Iowa State had with Audie Crook, she had gotten 40 points, which was wild. It was like one of the first times in a long time someone had gotten 40 points, and Audie was going strong. She was killing it. But Kiki Iraofen, I can never say it. Kiki Iraofen, yeah, was really strong from beginning to end. Cameron Brink had some issues. She definitely was having issues that night, and she fouled out in the fourth quarter, and then Audie fouled out. They went to overtime, which stressed me the fuck out, and they went to overtime, and then Audie fouled out. There was also an incident with one of the Iowa State players where one of the players fell on the ground and hit her chin so hard that she was like bleeding everywhere. That wasn't fun. But yeah, whatever. It happened. And the crazy thing about that, it tying at the end, Kiki could have won the game. She had a last second layup, but it didn't go in. It like bounced off the rim, and it was like so frustrating. But they went into the overtime. They busted it out. Audie Audie Crooks fouled out. That was kind of probably helpful, to be honest. And then they just went on the run. And then I forgot the person's name. Dimitri. I can't remember her name. She like got this three that kind of like sealed the deal. So it was really, really, really awesome. And Kiki got 41 points. So wild. 40 points in that other game, and then 41 points in this game. It's just a lot of high scoring games, and yeah, it was beautiful, to be honest. And then we had Middle Tennessee versus LSU, which, wow. Middle Tennessee gave it to LSU. They really did. They had them against their back. It was close, well into the second quarter, and then I think Middle Tennessee had a lead at the second quarter in the half. So it was super wild. And Middle Tennessee only had like 7 players to play in their rotation. So the fact that they made this close against LSU, which had almost a full bench, says a lot. And then Del Rosario got an intentional foul in the second, which I think was deserved. I kind of do feel that LSU plays really hard and sometimes dirty, and they get luckily sometimes it gets caught, the refs catch it. So I would say they play dirty. They don't always play dirty, but they do play dirty when they start to get frustrated. When a team is winning or maybe getting a lot of steals on them, they get mad and then they start playing a little dirty. So some things got caught by the refs, so it didn't go over well. And then in the fourth quarter, that's when LSU finally started pulling away, which should have happened. But you see, it was pretty. Look at this box score here. I mean, it was like 15, 20, 21, 12. They lost in the second. Second quarter, and then back and forth. So it's like a lot of back and forth. So yeah, that happened, and then that game happened. Obviously, LSU pulled away in the end, and they won, so it's fine. But then we have the next game, which is Nebraska versus Oregon State. It was a pretty close game until the very, very end. As you can see, these box scores, they were like, look at this, the third quarter. What? I mean, obviously defense, but what is going on? The last few minutes, it literally was like the last few minutes of the fourth quarter. Oregon State finally pulled away. It was very, very tight. But congrats to Oregon State. RIP the Pac-12. And then we had Colorado State versus Kansas State. That was a tight game in the first quarter, and then K-State started pulling away in the second quarter. But even at the half. But it was kind of even at the half. Yeah, they pulled away in the second quarter, and then it was even at the half. And then Jalen Sherrod, with her Batman face mask, I loved her faceplate. It was awesome. She was going off, and then, I watched the Sometimes I Hoop with Haley Jones podcast, and Jalen Sherrod was on that, and I found out that she likes Shakespeare. She's obsessed with Shakespeare. Very interesting. I like the people who are dynamic. But yeah, it was an up. What is? Yeah, I guess it is an upset because it's a 5 and a 4. But I guess it's technically an upset, and it was on Kansas State home floor. So embarrassing to lose at home. Sorry, K-State, but Colorado goes on. I'm really excited to see them play. Although they're not in my region, they're in Albany, so I won't be able to see them live. And then finally, you had Baylor versus Virginia Tech, and that was stressful. So stressful. It was tight the entire time. Them not having Liz Kitley sucks, but they did what they could. It just really sucks. They lost by 3 points. It was just 75-72. Very close game. They did what they could, but it just didn't work out, and it was hard to even watch. Like Liz Kitley, they put her on the screen, obviously, and she was very upset. I think she started crying and stuff. So, it's a hard time of year, but very, very fun games, very, very hard fought games, and if you haven't seen them, I definitely recommend watching the highlights on YouTube on the ESPN highlights. All right, and then let's talk about Monday. This isn't rib. I thought it was ready to go, and it's not. So let me get that. All right, so on Monday, let me pull myself back here. So Monday, we had West Virginia Well, this the first game? No, Ole Miss was the first game. I don't know why this came up first, but whatever. We can go in this order. But because the first game was actually Ole Miss and Notre Dame, but it says West Virginia and Iowa is the first game because anytime anything has to do with Iowa, they're going to like highlight it and do the most because of Caitlin Clark and what she's done. So this game was wow. Iowa almost lost this game. That's for damn sure. They played terribly in this game, and actually, I think they, in terms of actual scoring, they didn't score that well. Iowa didn't score that well. West Virginia outscored them, but they got a lot of fouls. They got a lot of fouls called on them, so they ended up winning because of that. So I would say like West Virginia started really hard with their defense, and it really shook Iowa at first, and it was really frustrating to them, which I found kind of funny because they're just not used to people playing defense against them. Especially Clark, she's not used to people defending her the entire full court. She's used to making her shots from like halfway off the court. You know, she's really good at that. But no, they're like, we're actually gonna defend you. And so at the half, it was only 24-26. It was so low. The score was so freaking low. And as you can see, the box score here in the second quarter was 9-6. Like, crazy. The D was strong. The D was strong. And like I said, Clark's not used to handling that kind of D. But she kind of needs to get used to it because she's about to go into the WNBA and like she's about to be playing with grown ass women, and they will be giving her all of the defense, and they're not going to be letting her pull up the ball up the court like she does in college. And this is going to be like every game she's going to have to deal with this. So either she has to deal with the defense or change her game up a little bit so she doesn't maybe pull up the ball. I don't know. We'll see what happens because Kelsey Mitchell is the point guard at Indiana, so she's probably going to pull it up and then maybe shoot to Clark when she's free so she can shoot it. But yeah, Clark can't be pulling up. No, she's not gonna. She obviously gets really frustrated and can't handle it. And then in the third quarter, Iowa started pulling away, but but then in the fourth quarter, West Virginia came back and like punched them in the face and got the score really close and actually tied it at one point in the fourth quarter, which was really cool. So it was a thriller. It was a really thriller. But Iowa won, but they paid for it. It was hard. They struggled and they kind of played terribly, to be honest. In that last foul from Stokey was kind of a clear hook. She got the foul against her and went to the free throw line. But honestly, from what it looked like, and I've seen Stokey do this before, she does hook people and make it look like she's the one being hooked. It's a great play. Can't knock her for it. But I'm like, and I would say, I don't know, these calls, some people might say they didn't get called enough, but I was like, I expect it to be a really intense physical game. And I felt like a lot of the fouls against West Virginia were not warranted. It was like a lot of ticky-tack fouls, like fouls on like they were going for the ball and maybe hitting the top of the hand and then calling that. And that is what changed the game. And honestly, those fouls were mostly called by the male ref. There were 2 female refs and 1 male ref, and the male ref called the most fouls. And I don't know. I get it when the refs are like, this is how I'm calling the game, this is how it's gonna be, but I'm also like, let them play, and they did to a degree. It was really physical, but if they hadn't gotten so many fouls called against West Virginia, I think they would have won this game, and that wouldn't have been good for the narrative that ESPN and everyone wants to have in terms of like the great dominance of Iowa, and not really of Iowa, of Caitlin Clark. And that wouldn't, that where's the eyeballs going to go? We need those eyeballs for viewership, so we need her to get to the Sweet 16, the Elite 8. So I do think that is on their mind, but don't forget, like when they were in that championship game against LSU, they lost horribly. It was a blowout. It was very bad. So it's great. It's great for the game. I love getting more eyeballs, but I also want to give due respect to the other teams that are just as good. Clark is a really exceptional player for college. She's a great player, but we'll see what happens in the pro league. We'll see. I hope she does well, but I don't know, because based on what I saw, what happened to Kelsey Plum and what happened to Sabrina Ionescu, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough those first 2-3 years. It's not gonna be a cakewalk. So we'll see. And then also a little irritated that they didn't cut to USC right away, the USC Kansas game right away, because every other game that went over, they cut to immediately, but they gave so much attention to her being her last game at home. They did all these post interviews with her and her other senior players, and I was just like, bruh, this is a little disrespectful because like we ain't doing this for the other teams. We're like, as soon as the games are over, like cut, gone. So whatever. I mean, that's ESPN for you. They're always, it's money. All right, so moving on, that happened. Iowa, West Virginia. Iowa barely survived. Let's be real. All right, so then you had Kansas versus USC. That was also later in the day. Very, very interesting game. USC started out hot with Juju. She just like was shooting off crazy, but she also got 2 fouls in the first quarter, so she had to sit her ass down. But Kansas came back a little bit. They were only down 9 points at a point, and then and was it close? I think it was close in the fourth too, but USC pulled away as they do. They made a run. They have so many other weapons on that team with Forbes and Padilla and stuff. So they did have a lot of fouls though. They did get into some foul trouble, but Lindsey Gottlieb, she's the truth. She is the truth. She gave them, the right coaching, the right plays, and they were fine. And I always knew that Lindsey would pull out because she was the coach at Cal, and the last time that Cal made that run in the tournament with Lasia Clarendon, by the way, they did great. I know she's a strong coach, so I had a lot of faith in her, and I knew they were going to win this game. I did see Lasia on the screen because I was going back and forth between games, but I hope Lasia was there because it was at USC, and Lasia plays for the Los Angeles Sparks, so I imagine she would be there, but who knows. And it's really great for USC because this was the first time they'd won a NCAA tournament game, or no, this is the first time they'd been back to the Sweet 16 since 1994. So that's wild, decades. So good hats off to them. They were able to do it. Now, let's talk about Ole Miss and Notre Dame. Now, this game I thought was going to be a lot closer than it was, and it wasn't. I mean, 56-71. North Carolina. Notre Dame started this game and finished this game. They gave everything. They were just cooking. The big three were cooking. Sonia Citron, Maddie Westbelt, and Hannah Hidalgo just went off as they do. Ole Miss had just way too many turnovers, and they missed a lot of shots. They were just off that day. I don't know what was going on. I don't know. Maybe the travel. Who knows? And then, North Carolina. No, I keep saying North Carolina. Notre Dame. Notre Dame, had the lead in the second. And then they had a big lead in the half. It was 26-43. And at that point, I was like, I think they're going to pull it out. They killed them in the third quarter. And then... and like Ole Miss just kept making mistakes. That's all I can say is they kept making mistakes, and Notre Dame dominated, and that's the story, and that's the score. So, all right, and then we had Creighton versus UCLA. That was a little bit later in the day, and that game was tight in the whole first quarter. And then Lauren Betts was getting it done. She's 6'7". She's a beast in the post. She was getting shit done. Second quarter, though, Creighton started pulling away. I was like, oh shit, what's happening? And at the half, it was 42-34. And then, but UCLA came back, chipping away real slowly in the third quarter. And then they got the lead at the end of the third quarter. And then at the fourth quarter, they pretty much maintained that lead. It was close. It was close. But they maintained that lead, and then ended the game 63-67, which is stressful. It was stressful at the end, okay? But Kiki Rice did her thing. Lauren Betts did her thing, and they got the victory. So good, hats off to them. Then you had the Tennessee versus NC State game, and that was fun. Interesting to note, Kelly Harper, who is the coach of Tennessee, used to be a coach at NC State. I think she was assistant coach, maybe, or was she the head coach? I don't remember, but she used to be a coach there. And it was a very tight game, but NC State pulled away in the second quarter. The fourth quarter, Tennessee did come back. They tried. And, I think they evened it up at one point. And then that last 3 minutes were wild. It was just like back and forth, all this. It was so crazy. There was so much going on. And Kelly Harper, there was a point where she was really upset because there was a timeout from NC State when the ball went in, but he called it right before the ball got thrown in, and she was like, what the? She was pissed. You could see her. considering like what happened when Tennessee played South Carolina in the SEC tournament, I'm sure she was like very worried, and she should have been. And unfortunately, Sanaya Rivers went off. She had the steal at 23.7 seconds to go. Uh, she did miss some free throws, but Tennessee missed 3 free throws, and pretty much it was just kind of solidified after Sanaya Rivers made that steal. They pulled it out. Um, I don't know. I didn't realize at the end Tamari Key was on the bench, and I don't know why she was on the bench for the very end of the game, but she only had 4 fouls, so I'm not sure. I missed why she got pulled out of the game. And then Rickea Jackson did what she could with Tennessee. I mean, she's a star player. She got 33 points. She's going to the draft, so she's fine. It sucks her season's over, but she's gonna be fine. She's gonna get drafted, and I think she'll do really well in the WNBA. She has the skill set for it. Definitely, I can see it already. Then you had Syracuse versus UConn, and bruh, UConn almost lost this game. This was highly contested and surprising. Syracuse hung with them the entire time in the first half. They were definitely denying Deasia Fair. They were denying her, but on the second half, uh, in the second half, Syracuse came back, and they were like, "Oh no, we readjusted." Felicia, what's her name? Felicia Jackson, Jet. I can't remember the coach's last name, but she came back and regrouped her team, and they played really well. They made a lot of steals, but they just couldn't convert on them. And they did get the score down to like a 3 point difference at one point. And I was like, oh shit, Syracuse might like be able to upset them, but they didn't. Syracuse did give it to them in the fourth quarter, but Nika Mule fouled out with 5 minutes to go, so that did help them make that run. But UConn did what UConn does, and they were able to pull it out. But it was close. I mean, it was only 8 points. I mean, they almost lost. They definitely survived that game. Deasia Fair moved up in the all-time scorer list. So now it's Caitlin Clark is number one. Caitlin Clark is number one. Number 2 is Kelsey Plum. Number 3 is Deasia Fair. She's 5'5". She's 5'5". And then I think the 4th is Kelsey Mitchell, who's going to be a teammate with Caitlin Clark. But yeah, the crazy thing is that she beat Kelsey Mitchell out by 1 point. and that's so wild. But yeah, Deasia Fair did it. And the fact that she did it, and it was I think she's only 300 points away from Caitlin Clark's record. I think that someone's going to beat Caitlin Clark's record. Absolutely, probably in the next 5 years. I think it's crazy that she was able to accomplish what she accomplished, but the fact that Deasia Fair also was really close to her says a lot to me, and I think someone else is going to be able to do it pretty soon. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, it was a very crazy into that game, and literally the last 30 seconds was like wild. It could have gone either way in the last 30 seconds. It really could have. And then we had the Oklahoma versus Indiana game, which I was watching, and that was a nail biter as well. It was really close the entire time. The entire time it was tight. It was either one team was up or not. It was tied a few times. Yeah, it was just back and forth. That's all I could say. I was pretty stressed watching it. I was like, But at the last minute, Indiana pulled it out. I mean, they were on home court, so they definitely had an advantage there, and were able to do what they needed to do. And then lastly, you had Utah and Gonzaga, which I, to be honest, was rooting for Utah. I love Alyssa Peely. I think she's great. But the Trong twins, the Trong sisters, man, Kaylee and Kaylin, they did the damn thing. They really did. It was really interesting, too, because I would say Utah and Gonzaga have a really similar type of play in terms of how they do threes and how they get inside and stuff. So it was pretty evenly matched. And it was a tight game, and Gonzaga had the lead most of the time, but Utah did come back and make it competitive. But Gonzaga was good. They were able to control it, and yeah, it's just a really tough loss for Alyssa Peely. She definitely was like tearing. She was crying at the end, and you hate to see that. You hate to see people who give their all, they play so hard and you lose, and then you have all this outburst of emotion. It's great for TV, but it's not. I hate to see it. I hate to see it for the players. But she plays amazing. I don't know if I think she's a senior. I don't know if she's coming back or if she's gonna declare for the draft. But if she does, I think she'll be good in the draft. She's such a strong player. She's a strong post player, so I wish her luck. But yeah, that was the day. That was the recap. It was a wild second round. The first round didn't have any upsets except for the Louisville Middle Tennessee situation. And there were upsets. There were really close games. Like a lot of these teams just barely won these games. And these were like high profile teams. So I'm really excited for the Sweet 16. And I guess I can pull that up since we are here. Let's look at the bracket. Let's see what it looked like. All right. So we have, and I'm over here. All right. So what we have is, obviously South Carolina versus Indiana, which good luck, Indiana. Yeah, good luck. Iowa versus Colorado, which I'm very excited about because I think Colorado could win this game. They're very good, but we'll see what happens. You never know what's gonna happen. But Colorado surprised LSU. They were shocked. They were shook when Colorado beat them. And then you got Oregon State versus Notre Dame. That should be really interesting. Oregon State is such a strong team, but Notre Dame has been cooking lately, so I don't know. I have my finger on Notre Dame. And then you have LSU versus UCLA, which should be really interesting because SEC teams rarely play Pac-12 teams. RIP. And I wonder how that's gonna play out. It should be close. I imagine it's gonna be close. It'll be a close game. Looking forward to it. And then you scroll on down to the Portland region, which I am going to. I'm going to the Portland games. So the Sweet 16 matchup here is Texas versus Gonzaga, which is like, what? That's so weird. It's a weird matchup, but I'm excited for it. Can't wait to watch that. And then you have USC versus Baylor, which should be interesting. Both really tough teams. I could see Baylor winning this, but I hope USC wins. I love Nikki Collins. She's a coach at Baylor. I love Lindsey Gottlieb, coach at USC. They're both really good. Nikki Collins used to be in the WNBA. She used to be a coach in the WNBA. She was the Atlanta Dream coach before she got recruited to Baylor. But yeah, should be interesting. I'm looking forward to that. And also North Carolina State versus Stanford. I mean, I've seen Stanford played a lot because I live in the Bay Area, but it'll be interesting to see them play against NC State with Sanaya Rivers and all them. It'll be an interesting matchup. I don't know. I have no clue who's gonna win that. I'm not pressed, but obviously I want the locals to win, but we'll see. And then UConn versus Duke. I am a huge Duke fan. I love Kara Lawson. She used to be a player in the WNBA, and she was on the Sacramento Monarchs. They won a championship. She's a great player. I don't love UConn. I think they have amazing players. Paige, Aaliyah, Nika, all of them. They're all really good players, but I'm just like kind of tired of Gino's dominance. It's just kind of boring when they were winning every year. And it's like, oh, dynasty, and I'm like, yeah, but that's boring. I want people to be upset. I want drama. I want other people to win. And so seeing them win all the time is quite annoying. So I'm happy to see them as a 3 seed. But they're probably gonna win against Duke, to be honest, because they have a lot of weapons. But I hope Duke surprises them, and we'll see what happens. Yeah, I think those are the only games. Yep. So looking forward to all of that, and of course when that happens, I'll probably do like an actual vlog of my experiences in Portland, so and of those games. So look out for that, and otherwise I will see y'all in the next video. Peace.